How are you doing? Welcome to another stream. I hope you're all doing fantastic tonight. We've got a good one in store for you. We're going to be talking about the biggest mistake that people make. Wow, I'm not set up. I'm not ready. There we go. Get the comments pulled up. I'm behind today. You'll have to forgive me. I am behind today. Tonight we're going to be talking about the biggest mistake that people make on their anxiety recovery journey. When it comes to retraining your brain, when it comes to all this fantastic, lovely stuff, we're going to be talking about that, letting the way that you feel dictate your actions, right? The biggest mistake that people make. I feel like it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good one. We're starting a little bit late tonight. A little bit late, so I hope there's still a decent turnout. How you doing, Jack? What is up? Welcome to the stream, dude. Chat's filling up fast. What is up, Sky, a.k.a. Stud Muffin, says first, almost first. You come in second today, my friend. Amanda, how are you doing? Edward, how are you doing? Pootie Sanchez, my boy, how you doing? Hello, everyone. Welcome. We got a lot of familiar faces in here tonight. I hope you're all doing fantastic. Hey, Mandy Moo, how are you? How are you doing, Sky? Hope you're doing great tonight, dude. Hope you're doing great tonight. So, we kind of touched on this subject the last time we were here. We didn't start with this subject, but we kind of got to that later on in the stream. The last time we streamed, and it kind of gave me the idea to do an entire stream focused on this one subject because I feel like it's so very important. So that was the motivation behind the stream that you're getting ready to watch tonight. Walter, what's up, Walter? Welcome, dude. Let's see. So while we wait on chat to fill up a little bit, let's go ahead and get a few things ready. Go ahead, get a few things ready. That way we're not wasting any time later on. It's going to get a little dark in here for just a second. Little dark in here for just a second. There we go. There we go. All right. Been sitting with my new thoughts, my intrusive thoughts, like it's demons in your head. I'm like, I hope they are. So, intrusive thoughts come in many different forms. They say many different things, and we always say that it's important to kind of disregard the context of intrusive thoughts for that reason, mostly because they're all handled the same, right? They're all treated the same. It's all about acceptance. It's all about no longer fighting with these thoughts and feelings and then taking the positive action. So that is the two main keys. But regardless of what the intrusive, negative, anxious thoughts are about, we always say to just kind of chuck the context out the window because it's all treated the same anyway. So congrats on staying right on track, Pootie. What's up, Migs? Yeah, I had a massive bolt of anxiety yesterday in a conversation situation. That rhymes, but dealt with it pretty well. Keep it up, Sky. So we're going to give it just a little bit longer here. How long have we been streaming for? Then we're going to get started. We're going to get rolling just a second. While we're waiting on that, let's go ahead and drop a link real quick. And then that should be enough time. Then we'll get started. Practicing acceptance more today. Awesome. Let's see. Go ahead and grab that. All right. Put that in there for anybody interested. Okay. Let's go ahead and get started. I believe this is a good starting point here. Pull this up. Where'd we go? I lost it. I lost the stream for a second. We're good. Okay, we're good. So tonight, guys, we're going to be talking about the biggest mistake, one of the biggest mistakes that people make during their recovery from anxiety when you truly start to dedicate to retraining your brain, to rewiring your brain in order to get that brain to really work for you rather than against you, right? One of the biggest mistakes that people tend to make, and like I said, we spoke about this in our last stream, but I feel like it deserved its own stream all by itself. So the biggest mistake that people make is to allow themselves, right, to allow their feelings to dictate their actions. So we gave some examples yesterday. We talked about how this applies to a lot of things in life and not just anxiety necessarily, but I know you're all mostly here to learn about retraining your brains and overcoming anxiety. So we're going to focus on that for a second. Then we might branch off into some other examples. So Anxiety comes in as that lovely false alarm that we've all experienced at least a time or two, right? That's saying the least. Anxiety comes in. It can be very intense with all of these symptoms that are both mental and physical. Okay, and the number one mistake that people make is to allow that anxiety to then dictate the choices that they make. And this is how people fall into the cycle. So anxiety comes in as a massive false alarm, bringing with it all of these mental and physical symptoms. And then when you don't know how this cycle works, when you don't know how the brain and body works, when you don't know how the amygdala, right, the part of your brain responsible for anxiety, when you don't know how that works and you don't know how it learns, you allow that anxiety to dictate your actions. So let's say you get a false alarm that is triggered over a thought. Or maybe you get a false alarm that is triggered over a situation. You're in a social situation. Or let's say you just get that false alarm. You can't really pinpoint the reason behind it. All you know is that you're feeling extreme anxiety. How the amygdala learns is to then pull up a seat. Once you've been triggered, it pulls up a seat and it says, okay, what actions are they going to take? Now, before you know this, you mentally get up in your head and you start to fight with the thoughts and feelings. I don't want to feel this. This is horrible. What can I do to make that thought go away? I don't like that thought. I don't like this feeling. And then you start to make bad choices, right? Bad behavioral choices. So, for example, people start to develop coping methods. We call them coping methods. We call them compulsions, whatever you want to call them. It's negative behavior. So maybe somebody who's experiencing these false alarms, they start to make it a habit to run away from them physically and go to their bed, right? They lay in bed and they hide under the covers while that anxiety is there. Or maybe they've made it into a habit to pace around the house. Or maybe they've made it a habit to call their friends and talk about how bad their anxiety is and to chug the water. Or maybe somebody's made it a habit to escape social situations very quickly whenever they start to feel this false alarm of anxiety. Or maybe it's just more minor things. I've stopped living my life. I don't do the things I used to enjoy. I've quit doing my hobbies, right? These are all considered coping methods and compulsions. And unfortunately, although they may bring you some short-term relief, because when I run to bed, for example, I feel a little bit better, right? I feel like I've escaped. So they may bring you some short-term relief. Maybe it's reassurance. I got reassurance from this person that, this anxiety is not going to harm me, or this thought's not going to harm me. And that makes you feel better in the short term. Unfortunately, you are allowing your feelings to dictate your actions. And as a result of that, your amygdala is going to see it. Your amygdala sees that you are changing your life for the anxiety. Your amygdala sees that you are doing things differently when the anxiety is there. The amygdala sees that you are making different actions and different choices based on this false alarm. And do you know what the amygdala says to this? To this, the amygdala says to itself, right? There must be a real problem here. There must be a real danger here. There must be a real tiger in that room, right? Now, you know there's not a real tiger. You know there's not something in the room with you trying to kill you. However, when you allow your feelings to dictate your choices and your actions, you are essentially telling the amygdala there is a real tiger. And the amygdala doesn't know any better. All it's got to go off of is your choices, your actions, your behaviors. So as you're laying there in bed because you're anxious and you're not smiling and you're hunched over and you've got really bad body language and you're using the compulsions, the entire time the amygdala is seeing this, and it is coming to the conclusion that there must be a real tiger in the room with you. And that's why your anxiety levels are set to high. That's why they remain there, right? Because you're not speaking the amygdala's language. So a lot of people learn about acceptance. They learn about the two main keys, which is to not fight with your thoughts and feelings, to have that accepting attitude, and then use positive behavior. That's the two main keys. Positive behavior, as in doing things you want to do, not what the anxiety wants you to do, right? To behave in a way that tells the brain there is no real danger. People learn about this. But it takes a lot of effort to allow that false alarm to be there, but then still make your own choices. So, for example, it takes a good bit of effort to allow yourself to be triggered with anxiety, but still put on a smile. That's a very small example, but it's one of many, right? It takes a lot of effort to allow yourself to be triggered, to have that accepting attitude, and then listen to your favorite song or sing your favorite song. It takes a lot of effort to allow yourself to be triggered with that anxiety, but still make the choice to not run to bed and do something productive instead while you keep your chin up and you put on a smile and you do what you got to do, right? It takes a lot of effort to not allow your feelings to dictate your actions. But at the end of the day, I must ask you a question, and you have to be honest, right? If you're serious about this recovery thing, if you're serious about retraining your brain, teaching your brain that the danger does not exist, whatever you want to call it, if you're serious about this, I have to ask you a question, and you have to answer it honestly. Since you have been watching my streams and learning about this positive behavior thing, right? Showing your brain the truth is what we call it. Since you've been learning all of this stuff, how many days have you been extremely anxious and you have decided to make choices that go against the anxiety? You've decided to smile. You've decided to watch a funny movie. You've decided to laugh. You decided to make yourself do these things. You decided to adopt better body language. You have decided to make choices based on your recovery and not based on what the anxiety wants you to do. How many of you can honestly say that you've at least been trying to do that, right? So there's a handful of people out there that will come to me and say, you know, Wonder Bro, I'm using the two main keys and I'm trying to see some progress here. And I'm like, okay, let me stop you right there. Are you actually, right? Because it does take a good bit of effort. So a lot of people, well, maybe not a lot, but a handful of people have themselves convinced, right? And this is the biggest mistake, have themselves convinced that they're using the two main keys, but really they're behaving the same way that they've been behaving for years. They're doing the same compulsions, the same coping methods, the same everything. They're not changing anything. They're making the same decisions and the same choices and using the same behaviors day after day after day, right? And then they come to me and they say, well, you know, I'd like to see some progress. And I say, well, that's going to be hard to do if you're not actually being honest with yourself. So the biggest mistake that people make during this journey is allowing their feelings to dictate their actions. And somebody in chat says, how can you be positive and stay authentic at the same time? Being authentic, right? So some people say, well, I feel like I'm faking it. But I have to ask you this question. Is there a real tiger in the room with you? The answer to that question is of course, no. So I'll tell you what's not authentic. What's not authentic is your anxiety. Your anxiety is the one that's not being authentic. There is no need for it. There is no need for the false alarm. There is no need for the anxiety because there is not a real danger present, right? So it's not you that's not being authentic when you choose to use positive behavior in the face of anxiety. It's the anxiety that's not being authentic. Now, if there was a real danger or a real tiger in the room with you, then that anxiety would be authentic. But it's not. There's not, right? So it's not you that's not being authentic. It is the anxiety that's not being authentic. Now, you got to prove to that anxiety that there is no real tiger, that there is no real danger. So for you to make your own choices and to choose your own actions and behaviors, despite the anxiety being there, you're the one who's being real because that tiger doesn't exist. So a lot of people say, well, I feel like I'm faking it. How are you faking it? There is no real tiger, correct? There is no real danger, correct? So you're just showing the brain the truth. That's authentic. That's being real, right? It's the anxiety that's not authentic. There is no real tiger. There is no real danger. The only one who's putting on a show here is the anxiety, right? The only one who's putting on a show here is the anxiety, not you. When you decide to make your own choices and to use your own behaviors and to make your own actions in the face of anxiety, You are the one who's being truthful. You are now telling the brain, okay, here's the facts. You are speaking the brain's language with your positive behaviors. You are the one who is coming to the brain and saying, hey, look, brain, this is the truth, right? This is the truth. Nova's going to join us here for a second. This is the truth. There is no real danger. There is no real tiger. So you're the one who's starting to be authentic, right? And that's the problem. People allow their feelings to dictate their actions, right? And unfortunately, that is the, not necessarily unfortunately, but that is the way that the brain learns. That is the language that the brain speaks. So as you continue to behave in this manner, right, you are basically reinforcing to the brain that there is a real tiger when there isn't. So, you know, I do, and I'm glad you asked that question, because I do hear that quite often, right? I hear that quite often, and that is an awesome question. You know, people tend to ask me, you know, how can I make myself behave with this positive behavior and not feel like I'm faking it? And the way that I like to put it is, you're not faking anything. You are just teaching the brain. You are showing the brain the truth. As long as that danger is not in the room with you, as long as there is not a tiger in the room with you, you using positive behavior is you simply teaching the brain the truth, right? So you are speaking the brain's language. It is the anxiety that's not authentic, and you need to prove that. You need to prove that to the brain now, and you can only do that through the language that the brain speaks, that the amygdala speaks, and that is that positive behavior. So again, you know, the point of this stream is that the biggest mistake that people make is allowing their feelings to dictate their actions. Again, we talked about this a little bit near the tail end of the stream yesterday. We also went on to talk about how this applies to life in general, not necessarily anxiety. So we'll give a few of those examples now. Let's say you're extremely angry, right? And you don't accept being angry, and you're going to allow that anger to dictate your choices, your actions. As a result of that, you might yell at somebody and then regret it later. How many people, you know, show of hands, how many people has gotten very angry, not accepted it, not took a step back and say, okay, I'm going to accept this and then choose my own choices, right? And then as a result of not doing that, you have, for example, yelled at somebody out of anger and then regretted it later. Right, so that's what it means to allow your feelings to dictate your actions, to allow your feelings to dictate your choices. You know, or maybe you felt jealousy in your life and then you didn't accept that and you allowed that jealousy to dictate your actions, and then you accused your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your husband or your wife of doing something without properly speaking to them first, right? Maybe you were wrong in the end. It's all because you allowed that feeling to dictate your actions, to dictate your behavior, right? So the biggest mistake, right, and I'll say it one last time, the biggest mistake that people make is to allow their feelings to dictate their actions. So just because you're feeling anxious doesn't mean you have to behave in an anxious manner. Just because you're feeling anxious or fearful doesn't mean that you have to make choices that are in line with that. Just because you're feeling fearful or anxious doesn't mean that you have to make choices based on that, right? And the whole problem is you've been making choices based on that. You've been behaving that way. You feel fearful, so you act fearful. And because you act fearful with your body language and the things you're doing and the coping methods and compulsions, you are telling the brain that this fear is justified, that the anxiety is justified. And it's not. It's simply not justified. There is no real danger. There is no real tiger. This is not justified. But as long as your actions continue to tell the brain that it's justified, then the brain's going to continue to assume that it is justified, and you're going to get more or less the same. You're going to get more or less the same, more or less the same. So let's say you're feeling very fearful right now, but you know there's no good reason for that because there is no tiger. You know that logically. Well, now you've got to prove that to the brain. You can't behave fearfully with your behaviors. Terrible body language, running to bed, running to the couch, getting reassurance, doing the coping methods, doing the compulsions, no longer doing your hobbies, no longer doing productive things, no longer carrying yourself with a smile from time to time, no longer speaking up, no longer taking part in conversations. You can't do all these fearful actions and expect the brain to give you positive results. You can't do all these fearful actions and expect the brain to realize that the danger isn't real. The brain is going to continue to assume, because it doesn't know any better. All it's got to go off of is your behaviors. The brain's going to continue to assume, if you continue to act this way, that the false alarm of anxiety is justified, right? So therefore, it's going to keep that alarm set to high. It thinks that it's doing its job. It thinks that it's saving your life, right? So you can't allow your feelings to dictate your behaviors if you want different results. You can't allow your feelings to dictate the choices that you make if you want different results. If you are feeling fearful and continue to act fearful, then you're going to continue to feel fearful, right? Feeling follows action. Now, this is a big one that a lot of people don't quite understand or grasp just yet. Feeling follows action, not the other way around. If you wait until you feel good to behave in a good manner, you're going to be waiting a while. If you wait until you feel confident to act confident, you're going to be waiting a while. If you want to feel these ways, you've got to act in the way that is in line with that. Think about it. You have been acting fearful, from your body language to the way that you present yourself, to the way that you carry yourself, to the things that you do, the choices that you make, every little thing. You have been continuing to act fearful, so you're going to continue to get fearful feelings. Now, what would happen, and it does take a little bit of time for the brain to learn, but what would happen if you truly dedicated to, even though you feel fearful, and I know you feel fearful, but even though you feel fearful, what would happen if you acted in the opposite direction? I feel fearful, and that's not necessarily a feeling that I want. So I'm going to act in a different direction that is in line with the feeling that I do want. So I don't want to feel anxious and fearful 24 hours a day, which is what I currently feel, right? I'm going to then decide to act in line with someone who is not fearful, with someone who's a bit more confident, so forth and so on. So feeling follows action. The biggest mistake that people make is that they allow their feelings to dictate their behaviors, and as a result, they get more of the same feeling that they don't want. In order for your brain to change, you must change. In order for your brain to change, your behaviors must change, right? So that is why people find difficulty in this, because it takes a lot of effort. You're feeling fearful, but you're not any longer going to act fearful. Okay, so it's a bit conflicting. I understand that, but you must understand that feeling follows action. You must take the action first and continue to take it in order for your brain to produce new feeling. Right? This is how you teach a brain that the anxiety is not needed. This is how you teach a brain that the fear is not needed. People wait until they feel better before they change their behavior, and it simply does not work that way. The change in behavior and choices and action must come first, and then you'll get the new feeling. So you have to go, you can accept the feeling, and you should be accepting the feeling. I accept that I feel fearful. I accept that I'm having fearful physical symptoms and mental symptoms and thoughts. I accept that, right? That is the accepting part of the equation. You accept it. You're not trying to fight against it mentally. You're not trying to argue with the thoughts or feelings. You simply accept them. That is the accepting part of the equation. And then comes the positive behavior. So I accept that I'm feeling fearful. I accept it. I'm not fighting with it. But I'm going to make choices, and I'm going to use behavior that is more in line with what I want to feel in the future, right? Does take the brain time to learn. So you see what we're getting at. How many people are with me? Show of hands. How many people are with me? Do you see what we're saying? Who here gets what we're saying? You accept the feeling. You accept the feeling. I accept that I'm fearful, but I'm going to make choices with my behaviors that are more in line with feeling not fearful, even though I do feel fearful, right? I accept that I'm fearful, but I'm going to make choices and behaviors that are in line with feeling better, right? And then you give an adequate amount of time for the brain to learn, because the brain is a student. It is very much learning. It is a student, right? It's not going to learn instantly. So it takes time for the brain to say, okay, new actions, new behaviors, let's produce a new feeling. And then let's make the adjustments. I understand that this danger must not exist. This tiger must not exist because of the way that he or she is behaving, because of the choices they are making. It's going to take me some time, but I'm going to make those adjustments for you on a chemical level, right? So it does take a little bit of time. People want those instant results, but understand that the brain is a student. It takes time to learn, right? It's not going to be instant. I understand that's a bit fucking frustrating, right? I wish back in the day that I just did one day of good behavior and all my problems were gone. Unfortunately, we're here to talk about reality, right? Not what we wish. So the reality of the situation is you must accept that you are feeling fearful, but you are then going to make choices and use behaviors that are in line with someone who's not feeling fearful. That's putting it simply. And then the brain, over time, is going to say, okay, I'm starting to catch on. You're not behaving like you should feel fearful, so I'm going to make adjustments to this anxiety because it's set a little bit too high based on what you're showing me, right? Excellent, excellent stream. Understand something, though. It's only going to be as good as your willingness to use it. We can have all the excellent streams, and maybe I'm tooting my own horn here, but I think that was a pretty clear, example there. So maybe I'm tooting my own horn a little bit, but I think you can't get any more clear than that, right? But understand something. It is only as good as your willingness to use it. If you don't use it, right, it's not going to work. I mean, at the end of the day, that's just putting it bluntly. If you don't use the information that you're taking in, it's not going to work. So, for example, when this stream goes off, if you run to bed and use coping methods, you're not behaving in line with a person who shouldn't have high anxiety. You are behaving perfectly in line with a person who has high anxiety when you do these things. If you want different, you got to take different actions. You got to make yourself do this thing, right? The anxiety is not authentic. There's no need for it. There is no tiger, but now you got to prove that to the brain. You are behaving like there is a real tiger, so the brain's going to assume there's a real tiger. If you want the brain to learn that the tiger's not real, you got to start making yourself behave in a different manner. There's nothing fake about that. The anxiety is the one who's not authentic. That tiger doesn't exist, but you're behaving like there is one. Therefore, the brain's going to assume that there is one. If you want the brain to learn that that tiger doesn't exist, you're going to have to start living a different lifestyle. You're going to have to start behaving differently. And there's nothing fake about that. That is you telling the brain the truth, right? What you're doing right now is fake. There's no tiger. Why are you acting the way that you're acting, right? The brain's going to continue to assume there is because of the way that you're acting. So what you're doing right now is fake. You might not feel like that, but what you're doing right now is fake. You're continuing to act like there's a danger when there's not. So we got to get you acting real, right? And that might take you, some practice. You might have to practice behaving the ways that you want to feel. You might have to practice this new behavior. No excuses, okay? So every single one of you are very capable of this. I'm going to be honest. I feel like I'm about to have a heat stroke. It's very hot in here, but I didn't want to turn the AC on because, and then I've got Nova over here with her body heat. So I'm about to have a heat stroke. I'm going to switch on over to post stream, and I am going to turn this on, and you guys are probably going to hear it, and it might be loud. I apologize, but I am burning up, man. I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's stream. I really do. I feel like it was an excellent one. If you did enjoy it, please leave a thumbs up. It really does help the channel grow, and I would really, really appreciate it. I love you guys so much. We're going to put on some tunes. We're going to hang out with chat for a bit, see what you guys are up to. I got one for you, Sanchez. I got some Miami Vice ready to go. Ready to go. There we go. There we go. All right. All right. Hopefully the sound of the air conditioner is not too loud, man. I'm burning up. Do the things you want to do and be the person you want to be, and you'll become that in time. Couldn't have said it better myself, Kate. Let me turn the music down just a little bit. That's kind of loud. That's kind of loud there. Okay. I think we're good. Yeah, exactly, Kate. Just know that in the beginning it doesn't feel like it's authentic because it goes against everything you've been doing in the past. That is so true, right? But just continue to remind yourself that it is authentic. It is authentic. It doesn't feel like it's authentic when you start using positive behavior. But that tiger isn't real, correct? Of course not. That tiger isn't real. So it might not feel like you're being authentic when you use positive behavior. However, you are being authentic because there's no tiger. And as long as there's no tiger, there's no real danger. Well, then your positive behavior is justified. That's authentic. What you're doing now with the negative behavior is not authentic because that tiger doesn't exist. So I get where you're coming from with that, but just understand that it's the other way around. The positive behavior is what's authentic. You've just been living out a behavioral lie for all these weeks, months, and years because that danger doesn't exist. But I get what you're saying, and I'm glad you said that to let other people know. It can feel like you're quote-unquote faking it at first, but you're not faking anything. The danger doesn't exist. You're being real for once, and that might not feel real, but you're being real for once. How you doing, Tony? It's good to see you, dude. Yes, awesome stream, brother. I appreciate it, Sanchez. Do the do. No, we are no longer doing the do. We are no longer doing the do. I'm trying to kick the do. Let's see. I started that like 3-4 days ago or something, and I've drank like 3 cans. So like 1 a day, not bad. I'm used to drinking like 5 or 6, so I gotta give myself some props on that. You guys can recover, just don't fight with the thoughts and feelings and live life. 2 main keys right there. Positive behavior, Tony, positive behavior, that's where it's at. You got to show your brain, based on your actions and behaviors, that the danger does not exist. And there's nothing fake about that. That's the real you. You got to show your brain the real you. Might not feel authentic at first, like Kate said, but it will in time. It will in time. This song slaps just like Will Smith. That was crazy. Some people don't believe it was real. Some people do. I don't know. To be honest, I don't care. Right? There is such a heated debate going on online about whether or not that whole incident was true or false or just fake or whatever. I'm just kind of like, I don't give a shit. Like, I'm not a huge fan of celebrities. Like, I could care less, honestly. If it was real, then wow, that must have stung a bit. If it wasn't, then oh well. Oh well. Sprite time then. Yes, you gotta switch to the Sprite. Much better choice. Eventually soda free, right? Eventually just soda free. That is the goal. That is the goal. Amanda, thank you so much for the $5 Cash App. I'm glad I checked my phone just now. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Give Amanda a round of applause. First tip of the night. We're on 120 days, guys. 120 days. Thank you guys so much for that. Give Amanda a round of applause for her $5 tip. Getting us started tonight. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Amanda. Thank you, thank you. You're the best. I love you guys. I love you. You want to know what's crazy, Wonder Bro? I thought recovery was going to be this big moment, but honestly, I became so busy with other things that anxiety became unimportant. Yeah, it's very gradual. I tell people that all the time. It's very gradual. It's not like a big bells and whistles celebration moment. No, it's more slow and more gradual. And you just get to the point where you feel better. Like, how else do you say that? You just get to a point where you feel better, and it's not that important to you anymore. Very gradual process. It's amazing just what positive behavior. I mean, you got to make yourself do it. It's not going to come naturally at first, but it's amazing what positive behavior will do for you, right? It's absolutely amazing. I know we've been doing like, we've been trying to do like every other day streams. Here recently, we've been doing like pretty much a stream every day, I think for the past 3 or 4 days. I don't know, I've just had a lot of important topics on my mind that I really wanted to get out there and get on the channel. And whenever that happens, it's like I can't wait. I'm just like, I gotta do it. Gotta do it. It's important stuff here. I can't wait. I can't wait. I'm sure you guys don't mind, right? Thank you guys in chat for showing all the love to Amanda. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Amanda, for the $5 tip again. That funky brain bolt yesterday was somewhat intense. It's amazing what the body can do. Yeah, it can be intense, but take a look around, right? Next time that happens, take a look around and say, hey, I don't see any tiger here. I don't see any predator here ready to rip my throat out. This must not be justified. I don't see any dangers. This is not justified at all. So it's time to be my true self. It might take some effort to do that. It might feel like you're faking it, quote unquote, but that's the truth. The truth is there's no tiger, there's no danger, so it's time to behave like there is no tiger, like there is no danger, because there's not. Takes effort, takes practice, but you'll get there. It's not something you have to be perfect at right away. Will my brain eventually stop firing? If you dedicate to those positive behaviors and acceptance, right? The two main keys. So if you teach your brain that alarm is not justified based on the choices you make and your behaviors and whatnot, if you teach your brain that alarm is not justified, okay, then it will stop firing that in time. It'll learn that the alarm is not justified, but that is up to you. That is up to you to teach it. Nobody else, right? Sorry, it's not much. I just got back to work, but once I'm working more, I'll tip you more. You rock, Wonder Brother. No, that's absolutely okay, Amanda. It's no problem. You're not obligated to do that. I really do appreciate it, though. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. You guys are so nice to me. I appreciate it. Yeah, you never have to feel obligated. Yeah, that's not something you ever have to feel bad about, Sky. That is never something you have to feel bad about or feel guilty about. Not here. We just want to see people succeed, right? At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. I want to see you guys succeed. Sometimes it helps to have these little reminders, a little bit of motivation to get you going. One day you do have to make the choice to dedicate. You do have to make the choice to really use what you're taking in, right? And I hope everybody is making a effort to do that. But yeah, these little reminders can help keep you on track. No, you don't. You definitely don't have to explain yourself to me. Don't worry about it. Brain zaps, very common. Had my second haircut today, and something so simple as this feels good to accomplish. Yeah, I mean, you're not used to it, right? You're used to doing the opposite. You're used to doing the opposite, like Kate was saying. Oh, we had an ad. There's so many ads on this particular playlist. It's ridiculous. But yeah, you're not used to doing that, right? You're used to behaving in the total opposite direction, fearful. So you should be proud of yourself, and it is a big accomplishment. It doesn't just feel like one. It is. Definitely is. Doesn't just feel like a big accomplishment. It is a big accomplishment. You should be proud of yourself. Hey man, every little thing counts. Every little positive behavior adds up. Like you might, that might seem untrue or that might seem insignificant, but like the little things count. So remember, it's not about waiting until you feel better to make the positive choices and the positive action, right? It's about making these choices even though you don't necessarily feel that way right now. So you could feel horrible with anxiety, but if you're making choices and you're making, you're taking that behavioral action that is in line with someone who's, let's say, confident or not anxious, then you're winning. I mean, you might still feel anxious for the moment. It might take the brain time to learn, but as long as you're making those right choices, those right behaviors, you're winning. Rest assured that your brain is learning. Hey man, Sanchez, I'm so glad you've benefited from the channel, dude. That's what it's all about at the end of the day. That's what it's all about. Life is good. Life is good. Hey, don't worry about it, Amanda. You keep using the advice. You keep going down this path, right? You keep going down this path. You keep making the correct choices. You're going to be there. No doubt about it. No doubt in my mind. No doubt in my mind at all. Hey, a new life, a new life, everything you want, it's in your hands. You can absolutely have it. You can absolutely have it. So I'm going to turn this AC back on for a second. It gets so hot in here so quick. I know it's a little loud, but... Wait, where's my favorite song in this playlist? Let me see if I can find it. Is this it? I don't think this is it. There we go. There we go. All right. We'll throw Claire up on this screen. We haven't seen Claire in a hot minute. all of you are capable. I have faith in all of you. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's just going to come down to your willingness, right? I mean, that's all it is at the end of the day. It takes effort and it takes a certain amount of dedication and willingness to make new choices and to behave in a different way. And it's going to come down to your willingness. It's going to come down to your dedication. And anybody's capable of that. Anybody is capable of that. It's not necessarily something that's confusing. You know, it's like, okay, you need to make choices and you need to use behaviors that are in line with someone who's not ridden with so much anxiety. Like that's pretty obvious. Like what goes into that? What goes into that with the positive behaviors? You know, anything from a smile to hobbies to your body language, like to taking part in conversations, like all these things are pretty obvious what positive behavior really is. So it's not a matter of lack of knowledge at this point. It's just a matter of making yourself do it. And anybody is capable of making themselves do something even though they don't necessarily feel like it, right? I'm not saying that's easy, you know, to go against the anxiety in that way. Might not be easy, but it's not a lack of knowledge, right? So if you want it, if you really want it, you can do it, right? You can make yourself do this, you know, so the door is open. The door is wide open. The door is wide open. So many ads in this one playlist. Oh yeah, it'll definitely grow. You're right, Kate. It'll definitely grow. Yeah, Claire needs to make more appearances for Easter alone. Not a bad idea. It's a wabbit. It's a wabbit. Who is this music by? This is just an 80s retro synthwave mix. Yeah, that is the title of this playlist. 80s retro synthwave mix. And it's just a mix of different synthwave songs that are copyright free, since that's all we have to choose from here, unfortunately. But it's pretty catchy. It's pretty catchy. Not gonna lie. I like it. I like it. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not, Sky. Miami Vice, yes. A lot of these playlists are not too bad. I mean, I wish we had more choices, but it's not bad for what it is. Not bad at all. Take it from someone who was afraid to exist. Now I get excited to take on my challenges most days. Yes, there will definitely come a point where you get more excited to take on these new behaviors, right? So maybe at first, and probably at first, it's going to feel a lot like you're kind of having to force yourself to do this. But after a while, just like you said, Kate, it does get to a point where you're happy to do it. You're like, okay, I can do this, right? You start to gain a little bit of confidence, and a little bit of confidence goes a long way. So everybody here is very much capable. There's not a single person out there who's not capable. It's just a matter of really making yourself do it. I mean, that sounds kind of cliche, but that's what it comes down to. It's really a matter of making yourself do it. You have choices that you have to make throughout the day with your behaviors and your actions, and you're not necessarily going to feel like picking your chin up and getting shit done, and you're not necessarily going to feel like singing your favorite song. You're not necessarily going to feel like partaking in those conversations around you, and you're not going to feel like doing all these positive things, but at first, at least. But it's really a matter of making yourself do it. I think we talked about that the other day, actually. The biggest, like one of the biggest things that hold people back is not feeling like it, right? I don't feel like using the positive behavior. I don't feel like living in this way, and so they just don't do it. But you got to make yourself, man. You got to want it. You got to want it, and you got to go after it. You got to want it, and you got to go after it. What do you think about working out while being anxious? Been working on that. So, I mean, it's really, the actions that you do take is personal choice. But at the end of the day, I'll tell you this. If it's something that you want to do, go for it, right? If it's something that you want to do, go for it. So, when we say positive behavior, that's a very broad range of things that could be for you. I don't necessarily know what your coping methods or compulsions are, but if it's something you want to do, right, and you're just not doing it because you don't feel like it, which is a huge thing, like I said, that holds people back, I would say go for it. So there's a lot of different choices that you can make of things that you could do throughout your day. I thought I would wake up one day and boom, anxiety gone. Years went by and just got worse until I found your channel and went after it. I feel awesome, brother. That's so good to hear, Sanchez. I love it, dude. That's what it's all about, man. That's what it's all about. And if you want it and you go for it and you use the advice, you'll get that. It's the menopause causing it, still going to work despite of it. So, yeah, you're still taking action that's contrary to what the anxiety probably wants you to do. You're making actions based on what you want to do, not what the anxiety wants you to do. And you should give yourself a huge pat on the back for that, because that's amazing. It really is. You are making the right choices. It's really what this all comes down to, making those right choices despite the anxiety. Yeah, intrusive thoughts can often take the form of self-harm. We call those, harm thoughts. It's a good indicator that if they stress you out or freak you out, Obviously, you're just afraid of the anxiety itself. Obviously, something that is triggering you, as opposed to a serious urge or desire. So a very common theme there, a very common theme that intrusive thoughts likes to take. You're not alone on that one. I used to love driving, going to eat, all that stuff. I was fun and spunky. Just want myself back. So here's the thing: you want yourself back. Well, then you got to behave like yourself, right? Sanchez, my boy, my boy. That spooked me a little bit. And we've got another ad that I missed. Why is there like 100 ads in this video? There we go. Sanchez, my boy, thank you so much for the $15 tip, dude. I appreciate you so much. Thank you. Thank you for that. We are at 20, right? 20, that takes us to 20. We are on a 120 days streak, you guys. 120 days streak. We're about 5 minutes from an hour. I'm a little nervous. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little nervous. I don't know. I don't know. Will we end here? I guess we will find out. Thank you so much, Sanchez, for the 15. I appreciate you, dude. Yeah, so you have a fear of harming yourself. You have intrusive thoughts. You don't have a desire. You don't have an urge. You have a fear of the intrusive thoughts of self-harm, which again is a very common theme that anxiety likes to take. So yeah, again, Amanda, if you want to be like your old self, you got to act like your old self. I'm burpy. We said it earlier that feeling follows action. Feeling follows action. Does anyone on here have OCD? Everybody. Okay, so let me explain. Let me explain that for a second. The label of OCD is referring to repetitive habits that you do in order to try to relieve anxiety, or to, with the thoughts that come, the OCD type thoughts. So pretty much anyone that you've ever met that struggles with sensitization, they could have the label of OCD put on them. It is not just the stereotypical hand washing that a lot of people seem to label as OCD. No, OCD, obsessive compulsive, is what you all are, right? You are doing compulsions or coping methods and behaving in a very negative way in order to try to relieve your anxiety, which is keeping you in this cycle. So anyone that you've ever met who has fried nerves, if they went to the right doctor, they would eventually get the label of OCD put on them, right? So that's why I don't bother too much with labels. That's why I don't bother too much with labels. Labels just kind of serve to get everything a little gunked up, right? When really at the end of the day, whether you've had the label of OCD placed on you or generalized anxiety or panic disorder, whatever label you've had placed on you, it's all going to come back to what you're teaching your amygdala, and it's all going to come back to acceptance and new behaviors. New behaviors is going to equal a new brain, a brain that functions differently. So regardless of the label that you've been placed, right, that's been placed on you, in my personal opinion, it's kind of irrelevant. Because, I mean, the label would be more significant, right? The label would be more significant if the, I guess I'll use the word cure, The label would be more significant if the cure was different. So if we treated, like if people treated their OCD different than their just anxiety, I guess the label would be significant. But at the end of the day, no matter who you visit, whether it's this person or that person, it's going to be all more or less the same as far as the quote-unquote cure. So that's just my opinion. Maybe you disagree with me, and that's okay. But I think I think the label is kind of insignificant. Pandemonium! Pandemonium, my boy! My boy, I appreciate you coming in with a $30 tip. Says, let's keep that streak going. Wonder Boy, you deserve it. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Huge round of applause in the chat to all of our tippers today. We are moving on to a 121-day streak. Thank you so much, Pandemonium. Thank you so much, Sanchez. And who else was it? Amanda. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys. Moving on to 121, which is just crazy. It's insane to think about. 121-day streak. Like, what? I don't know, but thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it. Thank you, thank you. Show some love in the chat. Show some love in the chat. And right at the 1 hour mark. Yes, right at the 1 hour mark, too. On top of that, Savannah, what is up? We just passed the 1 hour mark. That was perfect timing. I don't know if you did that on purpose, but it was perfect timing. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for that. It's been a good one tonight. It's been a good one. I've really enjoyed tonight's topic. Allowing your feelings to dictate your actions. That's what it's all going to come back to. If you continue to behave like an anxious person, expect your brain to continue to give you the chemicals that will make you an anxious person. Does that make sense? So that's where people get hung up. They feel certain ways, therefore they allow those feelings to dictate their actions, and they get the results. You can accept a feeling for what it is. You can accept it and respect it, but it does not have to dictate, and it shouldn't dictate your actions. So feeling follows action. Anybody can do it because that knowledge is pretty straightforward. There's really nothing confusing about that. Now it's just a matter of, are you willing to make yourself do it? So if you're feeling fearful, are you willing to make yourself behave in line with a person that's not fearful, right? And then as a result, your brain will catch up in time. So really, that's what it's going to come down to. That is what it's going to come down to. All right, beautiful people. Another ad. That playlist is so full of ads. It's ridiculous. We're going to get our song going. Let's see. We'll let this one play through, and this will lead us into our closing of the stream once this is over. But anyway, anything I want to say, anything I want to go over? I don't think so. I think we're pretty much good. I know we've been trying to do streams every other day, but here lately we've been doing them every day. Like I said, that's just me sitting around with these topics on my mind, and I'm like, that would make a good stream. That's important. We need to get that message out there, right? So that's all that is. Will we, ever stick to one direct schedule? Probably not. Probably not. So, but yeah, with that being said, I think that's everything. Thank you guys so much for another excellent stream. I really, really do appreciate it. I love every single one of you. Make sure you leave a big thumbs up if you haven't already, man. I would appreciate it. Let's continue to grow. We are on the road to 11K, 11,000 subscribers. So thank you guys so much for everything that you do. I appreciate the hell out of you, and I'm sure I'll see you very, very soon. Until next time, guys, as always, stay awesome.
I'm a stone cold killer, I'm a billionaire. I got my own gold digger. If I wasn't this way, I'd rather die. Did it die, yeah. Did it die. Did it die? I'm a stone cold killer, I'm a billionaire. I got my own gold digger. If I wasn't this way, I'd rather die. Did it die? Wait. Did it die? Wait. Did it die?
Whatever you want, I'll be whatever you want. Just tell me you love me or not, whatever it costs. I know I'm talking a lot, there's something I gotta get off. Don't wanna be this no more, I don't wanna drink no more. Always gotta do the most, thinking that I'm insecure. Really should've listened more, but I don't, of course. I'm an asshole, I'm a good guy, I'm your best friend, I'm the worst type. Tell you everything that you heard right, just so I can fuck on the first night. Feel like I'm losing hope, running from coast to coast. I don't know where to go, this all I've ever known.
I'm a stone cold killer, I'm a billionaire. I got my own gold digger. If I wasn't this way, I'd rather die.
No.
Did it die?
Wait.
Did it die?
Wait.
Did it die? I'm a stone cold killer, I'm a billionaire. I got my own gold digger. If I wasn't this way, I'd rather die.
Won't die.
Did it die?
Wait.
Did it die?
Wait.
Did it die?
My aunt think I'm perfect, I know I'm not. My mama be worried, I told her stop. They know I did drugs and think that I'm off. Little do they know I never could stop. My manager hate when I'm pulling up late. Back on my bullshit, she think it's a phase. I got relations I gotta maintain. I'm two different people, my side and my main. Yeah, I'm sober, I'm an addict, I'm a lowlife, I got habits, but I refuse to be average. Really so tired of acting, don't know what I miss no more. Too bad you don't hit me more. I'm bad when I get too bored, careful what you wishing for.
I'm a stone cold killer, I'm a billionaire. I got my own gold digger. If I wasn't this way, I'd rather die.
No.
Did it die?
Wait.
Did it die?
Wait.
Did it die? I'm a stone cold killer, I'm a billionaire. I got my own gold digger. If I wasn't this way, I'd rather die.
Won't die.
Did it die?
Wait.
Did it die?
Wait.
Did it die?
I'm a stone cold killer.